Welcome to episode 1 of the 5-Star Potential Podcast Social, your daily lockdown podcast brought to you by us lot here at 5-Star Pod, plus a few of our mates. So the first lockdown in the UK was uncharted territory for us all, and it became very apparent that the increased anxiety surrounding the pandemic had a severe impact on our mental well-being. Football Manager played a big part in lockdown 1, and it's been well publicised that the escapism of the game provided was a welcome distraction for all, and kudos to FM to all their efforts in making the game as accessible as possible during this time. I definitely didn't read that off a script, by the way. I think we're all better prepared when the second lockdown was announced on Saturday, and as a nation I think we'll cope a lot better second time round, even if it means rationing a bit of toilet roll. That doesn't mean it'll all be plain sailing though. We've been aware of our own well-being during lockdown. Between us all, we've had issues with jobs, families, travel, money, many other things, and we wanted to share how we've coped, adapted, overcome situations that have become the new normal, all while checking in with our mates and you guys, the listeners. We're going to have plenty of people joining us over the next month or so there'll be plenty of variety and time to get any questions in that you've got, to have them answered and to the best of our ability. So let's see who I'm joined by. Today we have got Joe, Friday Night FM. Joe, how you keeping, man?
I'm all good, mate. You alright?
Yeah, all good, thank you. All good. Dupe,
Good.
how's things?
Yo, mate, great to be back. Oh, shit, wrong podcast.
We've also got, we've got two Matts here. We'll start with Nerd. Matt Nerd. How's it going, Matt?
Hello. This is weird to be on this side of the fence for once, but
I know.
welcome.
Yeah,
It's also weird not having Curtis.
It's great to be back.
It's good to be back, indeed.
And finally, our first guest, we've got another Matt, but second yellow card, Matt 2. How's it going, mate?
It's going good. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Very well. So this is obviously going to be a podcast that is going to be daily throughout lockdown. I think it's something that Joe and Dupe have discussed before. And it's great that, we've got, I don't want to say excuse, but we've got the opportunity now to upload it daily throughout lockdown. It is going to be YouTube exclusive, unless Spotify come in with an amazing podcast deal. I think it's gonna stay on YouTube anyway. So as always, it's going to be on the WeStream FM channel. Be sure to hit the like button, subscribe on the channel for daily videos. Fingers crossed we get them out every morning, and obviously let us know any questions you've got for upcoming pods in the comment section. So we've got loads of questions for you, Matt. We're going to tangent off them. We're gonna chat away for the next half an hour, 45 minutes, hour, however long it may be. So as our first guest, we're going to throw you in the deep end.
Brilliant.
What were your initial thoughts when lockdown was announced on Saturday?
Honestly, I imagine for a lot of people it was, anxiety. For me it's been slightly different because it doesn't actually change my life in the greatest of ways, because I do work from home anyway, so it's not the greatest of life change, particularly with the first time around. It's like slipping on an old jumper that you really don't like, and now we've got to put it back on again for another month again. But I don't think it's quite as anxiety inducing as it was the first time around, because it was all, like you say, uncharted territory and no one really knew what was going to happen. You thought, we'll go away for a couple of weeks, it'll be fine, and then 3 months later everyone's still inside. And I guess we're just hoping that it is actually a month this time and that we can have a Christmas. That'd be nice.
Yeah. So is it content creation full time you do, or is it?
It is now, yeah, as of the start of the first lockdown.
Wow. So, and how's that treating you? Are you enjoying it? I've never I've thought about it obviously, but I never really imagined what it would be like sort of doing it full time.
It's stressful because it's another level of responsibility, but I was self-employed before, so it's just a different kind of self-employed. But I'd argue actually this one's slightly easier in a way, because you can sort of work when you want to, in the sense that when you're putting videos out and doing streams, you are generating income, whereas with what I was doing before, you could be putting work in but not really sure how much income you're going to get for it. And I suppose there's an element of that on both sides, but I'd much rather be doing this than that, because at least it's something I really enjoyed doing. And when the opportunity came up at the start of the pandemic I was in a situation where it was either this is going to basically go down the toilet, or I could try to switch over and do content creation full time during this period and just sort of test the waters and see how it goes. And thankfully, with streaming as well as YouTube, it's been enough to allow me to switch over to full time. Now, how long I can keep doing that, I don't know, but at the moment things are positive.
Just got to keep winning the Streamer Showdown, mate. That'll bankroll it.
No pressure.
I was going to ask, obviously, during lockdown 1, how you coped with it, but obviously, almost for you, I know it sounds strange, almost happened at a good time, really. That if you were at that sort of crossroads, it fell almost quite perfectly for you.
Yeah, I feel like it's like the pandemic was kind of like the final domino that it took, because with hitting certain industries very, very hard, it was a case of, if there's ever a time you're going to test this out properly and see what it's like to do it like 100%, now's the time to have a crack at it. And we'll see what things like when things actually are back to some semblance of normality. But for now, it's fine, and you just play Football Manager. Like, there's nothing better than that, right? Really.
I think, to be fair, like, sorry to butt in, but like, I think there's probably a few people that take this gig very like semi-seriously. And I think for me personally, with the lockdown, I work for a company that produces drug delivery systems for the NHS, as you can probably imagine.
Yeah.
We're pretty busy, like, so there was no chance of me stopping. However, if I was maybe furloughed, not that I ever feel that my position I could go full time, but I definitely would have streamed full time.
Yeah.
And then you've got a decision to make at the end of it, right? So like you said, it's very nice that you were in the position where you can't work. So let's give it a go. Yeah. Whereas you see some people do take that leap of faith, and they have work that they've turned down to then do it. So I mean, yeah, fair play to you, man. Like, GG, top work.
I can't imagine that, because I don't think I'd have the balls to do that. It was more of a sort of confluence of circumstances that just so happened to present the opportunity to go full balls in it. And I thought, like I said, now's as good a time as any to do it, really. The world is weird at the moment, so why not become a professional Football Manager streamer?
No, fair play, like, yeah. Go on.
So I was just going to say, how did you feel in kind of lockdown 1, where you was going to work every day and other people were off?
Me?
No, Dupe. I was just because he worked the whole way through, and to have lots of people off on furlough and people like streaming Football Manager, there was a lot of streamers that kind of hit it hard during the lockdown, and then there's Dupe going to work every day. So that's another thing, as someone that creates content, that's got to have kind of affected you in some way, seeing all these other people. I don't want to say benefit from a pandemic, but they kind of did in a way.
Yeah, I mean, jealousy is a cool thing, right? No, I'm joking. I mean, the thing that made it worse, Joe, was you sending me a picture every 10 a.m. with a bottle of beer. To be honest, mate, relentlessly.
Al fresco having his breakfast outside, and that.
Yeah. Just his cornflakes.
Fancy castle.
Literally the worst. No, I mean, to be fair, financially, my overtime went through the roof, so I technically did benefit from being at work. But yeah, it was tough to kind of work the extra hours and then come back and do the content, and kind of people have got a bit of a head start on you. But that's swing of that's lie of the field, right? That's just the way it goes. You can't. It's one of those things that. The joys of being, they said a key worker. I mean, I'm clearly not a key worker. Special worker is probably a better way of putting it.
They never give you the keys.
they technically do. But it's unfortunately. I say unfortunately, it's my business. That I work in. It's the fact that it is medical, and I have to be there. And there's literally no chance of me being furloughed. A lot of people out there would jump at the chance to be there. There's a lot of people out there that would prefer to be working from home. My wife, for example, she's been working from home from day one of this, and they've now announced that they're working from home until June next year, regardless of what happens with the pandemic. So that's quite a daunting task for her. But yeah, she's loving it. She gets to take the kids to school at the moment. She takes the dog out for a walk in the lunch times. And then I come home and the tea's not even on the table. So you can see how happy I am. But, it's going back to the original question, because that's kind of probably what you asked me. It was difficult. It was difficult jumping on Twitch on my lunchtime or at work, having it on in my ear and be like, shit, there's so many people on. Just imagine how many attempts of winning the Champions League would have had if I got furloughed. But no, that's we all have our own stories, right? And I mean, I'm very proud of what me and my team at work have done during the shutdown, during the first lockdown, and what we're going to do in the second one. Because I mean, indirectly, we're saving lives, so that's why we go to work, right?
I guess the antithesis of your situation, admittedly, like you may well see other people streaming or having more time for videos or whatever their poison is in terms of content creation. At least you've got a steady wage coming in, whereas the other opposite side of the coin is that whilst they may be, streaming for all hours of every single day they possibly have, maybe that's the only avenue they have of earning any money, because if they've just become self-employed very recently, no chance of getting any form of self-employment furlough there, so they've got money worries of their own. So sure, they maybe have it looking like they're having the time of their lives, but then there's all of those sorts of worries that will absolutely come as a result of not having a secure income. So I can understand and completely appreciate both sides of said coin.
Yeah, and
quit my job. Literally 31st of March, went self-employed, lockdown.
That wasn't intentionally digging you out, Joe, by the way. That wasn't intentional.
Had a second kid. I've lived the life, mate. But it's hard.
If you'd like to help Joe, you can just text Joe to 5858. No, and again, this as much
I'm all
as
good.
Yeah, I mean, we jest because we know Joe can take a joke, right? And this doesn't mean to be a weird flex, but absolutely, Matt, I 100% agree. And the fact is that in such an uncertain time and an uncertain period for a lot of people, I have to be very lucky that I'm not going to be made redundant. I had to work all the way through, but the chances of like I said, we deliver to the NHS. The chances that we're ever, in this current climate, we're ever going to get shut down is next to zero. So, yeah, I mean, swings and roundabouts. I'd prefer to have maybe dinner on the table than have an extra couple of followers, you know what I mean? But not all Dave.
Matt Nerd, obviously you were sort of, I don't know, it was a year or two ago, you were in a sort of similar situation to Matt, where you'd started something on the side in your sort of your voiceover work, and then you had to take quite a big step in deciding, if you wanted to do that full time. Sort of similar to SecondYellowCard with his content. He's been doing that and he's taken the jump. Like, how was it for you? I know it was completely different because we didn't sort of have a pandemic there, but like, how big of a jump was it for you, or did it feel like a natural progression going into something like that?
It does get to that point that there was definitely a tipping point, and I'd say it was still a calculated risk from my perspective. And like you've said, Dave, there wasn't an issue of a pandemic going on, but in terms of like finances, I guess it's very much the unknown. I'd never been self-employed before. My wife was basically self-employed for a while, and so I'd seen sort of some of the pitfalls that I could sort of fall into if I didn't do things what I class as right, quote unquote. But it got to that point where my mental health continues to sort of deteriorate because I'm doing insane work. I'm doing 8 hours a day at a traditional 9-to-5 job. Then I'm coming home and probably doing that same amount of time. I'd probably get home around 7, eat, maybe spend a couple of hours in front of the TV, then I'd go upstairs and record for 4 or 5 hours, and it got to that point where that is no longer feasible, and that's what kind of pushed me into that decision. But that sort of freeness, I guess, you get of dictating your own work schedule is then greeted by financial insecurity, at least initially, because I've given up a steady wage that I've been getting for the past 2, 3, 4, 5 years to pretty much unknown and reliant upon getting my own clients and everything like that. And so one month could be great, the next month it could be awful. You have no idea. And obviously the impact that can have on everything, not just immediate purchases and feeding yourself, but then also what's going to happen 5 years down the line when I need to renew my mortgage and things like that.
I was going to say, just before you started that speech there, in terms of like your mental well-being, when obviously we used to chat when we was doing the pod, etc., when you was working full-time, and you was in quite a dark place then, and when you took the leap of faith probably to go kind of self-employed, how that changed your mental state. And from us, obviously we speak to you 2-3 times a week probably, and you could see straight away when you was actually getting lots of kind of orders coming in, you was probably more busy than you'd ever been, but you also weren't stressed out about the kind of day job. So just having that leap of faith sometimes to try something can change your whole mental aspect on life, I suppose.
I think that can help, or did help to an extent. I think, like you said, I was in a pretty dark place at that point. And I think, to be honest, most of that, I think part of it is the usual imposter syndrome that I think a lot of people do face, but also the lack of sleep. That's the thing that did it to me. I'm almost certain, because I was just getting 4, maybe 5 at a push hours sleep a night, and it's just not enough for anyone to sustain over a period of time. And I think that's what really, like, I was a bolshy bastard, like, as you all know.
Was?
Okay, fair play. But I was a lot worse, at least when I was trying to pull double duty.
Yeah.
And that made it a lot easier to manage. It doesn't mean that I don't still have those dodgy points, or indeed the imposter syndrome, or anything else that prevents anyone from either clicking go live or making a video or anything like that. But they're very different psychological side effects to things, as opposed to just being in, like, not having enough time to do everything that you're wanting to do.
Yeah, I mean, I got a little question to ask you two boys well, Matt, it's probably easier. So obviously you just said you both stayed at home during the whole of the lockdown. Didn't go out to work, you worked from home. Did you feel a lot more comfortable doing that, seeing that you didn't have to go out? Did you feel a little bit alienated because you don't, well, Matt's probably a little bit, Nerd's probably a little bit easier because you've been self-employed doing what you do a little bit longer, but did you feel that there was just not a lot of chances to reach out and speak to people? Because for me, being at work, I'm surrounded by everybody that's going through it. We work behind a big metal gate in a big factory, and it's like Monday, it's like your normal before the pandemic. You then get out of that gate and it was just like a ghost town. It was really weird. It was really strange. It was very hard for me to describe that. Outside of my work, it was just like a ghost town. Everywhere you go, nobody was about, and unless it was at the shops. So did you find that having that a one-to-one, or at least a conversation with somebody was easy enough while you were at home, or did you struggle with that?
I'll let the guest take that on first.
Yeah, I really went around the long way around.
It was one of those things where you sort of forget how important human interaction is, I think, when you take it for granted, because you'd have no reason not to take it for granted, because you can see people every day, talk to your friends, go meet them, have drinks, go to house parties or whatever. And then when all of a sudden it's taken away from you, you have to sort of reassess how you interact with people. And so I'd go through, particularly at the very beginning of it, because nobody really knew what they were doing with anything, really, because it was sort of like a readjustment of like the human psyche. And I'd mostly I talked to my girlfriend, but that was it, really, for like weeks, until like eventually people started changing around. My friends and I would have like Discord quizzes, and it's not the same as seeing your mates at the pub or whatever, but it's better than nothing. And in a weird way, I think it's actually brought me personally closer together with some of my sort of inner circle of friends, because we'd have more dependency on each other, because as men sometimes we don't like to talk about things like this, but like you don't realize how much you need your really close friends until situations like this come up, and people might not say it, but it's sort of like an unspoken thing that everybody's talking to each other a little bit more. They're being just that little bit nicer underneath the thinly veiled banter and whatnot, and it's important. I think that's the sort of thing that's more important than ever. Getting back in touch with people that I haven't spoken to for a long time, and then getting a lot closer with them still. It's very, very strange. But like what you said about how going outside the gates of your work and there's just no one there. I remember a couple of weeks into it was about a month in, I went for a run just out around the town, and I walked, I ran about 2 miles. I didn't see a single car, and I was on like a main road. Not a single car for like what must have been 10-12 minutes, and it's strange. You feel like you're in some kind of zombie film. It's
weird. That was, yeah.
We were in strange times.
It was strange. Like, for example, from my house to work, I used to have to go past a big retail park, and the retail park is open. There's 24-hour McDonald's, there's a massive KFC. I mean, it probably explains a lot, right? Stone throw away from my house. But there was like all the shops, the Boots, the PC World, all this jazz, all the other shops are available. Open late, open early, and whatever time of the day you go past, the whole car park's just empty. 200, 300, 400 spaces just completely empty. All the doors shut up. Even the McDonald's shut up. I mean, you knew it was bad when McDonald's shut. Crikey.
Did any of you get this, where like in lockdown, because the roads were a bit quiet, people just walk in the middle of the road?
Yeah.
And what was that about?
It was like, but it's like they forgot all sense of imminent danger.
Like you say,
they watched The Walking Dead once.
When I was at work, like you said, the main roads were dead. It was like if I was driving somewhere, I'm like, why are you walking in the middle of the road? There's no one else on the pavements. Like, what are you doing?
They're just not expecting a car, are they?
It's weird.
It was very strange. Yeah. I mean, I was out of the house most days, every day, and it was like, it was weird flex. It was. Do you know what I found the weirdest? Right, and like I lived in an estate that was relatively full of older people. And at the start of the lockdown, I kind of put a letter through everybody's door in my end of the estate. It was like, I go out every day. If you need anything, just let me know. I can pick it up on the way home. I genuinely am a nice guy. But like, it was the curtain twitchers. Like, I'd get in my car and I'd go off it. And it was almost like jealousy. Where the fuck, where's he going there? Why does he get to go out? You know what I mean? But we got these, so because I work in facilities, so I have to look after the whole factory. We get these, at the start when it was kind of the big, we not really sure what's going on, we got given the full hazmat suit with the big mask. I think I brought it on stream once. It's a giant, like, proper gas mask style mask, because if there was ever a confirmed case on our site, we would have to go in and kind of disinfect the area and clean it and get it ready to reopen, basically. And one day I had to go to the shop to grab something, and I just couldn't find a mask. And this was before like masks was a thing, but because I was working and we had quite a young child, I thought it was best to wear a mask. So I just found this one mask in the back of the boot. So I put this big mask on. Literally, it was about 12 inches long, and the looks I got from that, because it looked like I was in some sort of zombie apocalypse movie then. But yeah, the curtain twitchers were just amazing. Everyone just almost jealous of people going out.
I'd just like to confirm that the road Duke used to live in was full of old people. Curtie Parks is jagging there. It didn't look out of place.
I was honestly like, this is miles off topic, but I had we had an elderly Polish chap next to us, Polish couple. Absolute. The guy was brilliant, fair play to him. Like, to the point where he'll come and knock on the door and he'll be like, I'm cutting the grass, I'll cut yours, and I'm jet washing my drive, I'll jet wash yours, and all that stuff. So it was perfect, you know, I didn't have to do anything. But it was, it must have been VE day. I think it was VE day. And you kind of like, I lived at the bottom of the estate, and it was like a big circle part of the road. And everybody then come out on their chairs and they kind of sat in front of their drives and they all started having a drink. And then the old Polish geezer comes out and he puts a table in the middle of the circle, right? So we're all socially distanced, everyone's away, you know, all just having a drink and a chat. It's quite loud, to be fair. And he just goes and gets this Polish vodka, and he puts it on this table. And he was like, right, just come up, grab some vodka and go. And I mean, I was on call, so I couldn't. Anyway, all these blokes, quite old blokes, are drinking this vodka, all English. The Polish guy's just absolutely smashing this vodka. He goes back and he's sat on one of the plastic garden chairs in the grass. He sits down on it, and he sits down on it with such a huff. The back legs just went into the grass and he went flying. The thing is everyone's like, well, we should pick him up. We should help. But you kind of can't, because there's a pandemic. You're not allowed. So I had to get the hazmat suit on with the big and I had to carry him up into the house onto the sofa. But yeah, there's a little funny story.
There's a sitcom in there somewhere.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But no, it was amazing how they got around it by having these like non-guard, like front street parties, but actually front street parties. It was good. Fair play to them.
Videos on Twitter of people like dancing
House
in the middle of the road. Yeah. Moving on, Matt, is there sort of anything that you're gonna change, obviously, in this next, like the upcoming lockdown, to make sure, obviously, your mental well-being is, you know, positive?
I think I felt quite well prepared for the previous one, just because I'd been taking steps to sort of improve my mental well-being over the past sort of year, even if it's just simple things like not reading Twitter or not going on social media as much and things like that. And I just kind of turned that up to 11 during the first one. And, you know, the support people around you. I just basically, all I did was I removed Twitter from my phone, and then every time I had the urge to watch it, I would just open the Kindle app and read a book for that same period. And it's sort of, I thought, I might learn something. At the same time, I'm not on Twitter. So it was like a double whammy. But I guess the one difference this time around is that my girlfriend was furloughed last time. And this time, she works in retail. And for some reason, her company have decided to stay open, even though they're non-essential this time. So she's not going to be here, which is very strange. So that's going to be the one difference, is that I'll be sort of in the same position, but without her around as much. So maybe it will be more difficult to sort of cope perhaps with some of the, not being allowed out, having to readjust your routines again, and the fact that she's obviously, I've got to worry about her anxieties too of having to go to work and take public transport during all this as well. So she's quite apprehensive about that, as I can imagine you would be. So that's probably the one big change, is trying to deal with that.
Mate, she'll leave a list. This is what my missus used to do when I was home. She'll leave a list. She'll be like, empty the dishwasher, vacuum up here, do this, do that. That'll be your day done.
So you do that at 5 to 5, didn't you?
Oh, that's what I'm going to go back about 5 years when I used to live at home with my mum and dad. That's what I used to do when I was on school holidays. And the mum used to leave a list. Yeah, and it'd be like literally at 10 to 4. You're running around.
Take the chicken out the freezer. You see it pull up. You're like,
it's definitely defrosted.
Put it in the microwave or something.
Oh god, still hard in the middle.
Oh, the plastic's still on.
Do you know, I laugh so hard because I think I'm pretty sure I've done that.
If you've not done that, you've definitely been too much of a good child.
Now, the retail thing as well, with people like deciding they're non-essential and whatnot, is an interesting one, because obviously some people may know I'm in the fireplace industry.
Dave.
Never mention it, mate.
Yeah. Sounds like a
I know,
euphemism.
He's a chimney sweep.
You lot mention it more than me. But there's a big discussion on on a Facebook.
So's his missus.
Yeah, I'm not part of this. That's brilliant. I'm not part of said Facebook group. There is a fireplace group with the retailers, and there's like a split whether people are classing a fireplace shop as essential or not. And some people are saying, well, it's heating, so it's essential. And some people are saying, well, no, we're selling, stuff, and it's not really essential. So for what it's worth, I'm off anyway. I'm still going in, but not open to the public. So
it seems like there's more kind of nuance and granularity about it this time around. Whereas before it was like, if you're non-essential, and it was very clear what was and wasn't non-essential. They were just like, no, you're off, stay home, and it was all good. I mean, I think one of the other reasons my girlfriend was sort of, because I have quite not severe asthma, but severe enough to the point where it puts me in like a slightly higher risk group or whatever. But they seem to have forgotten all about that this time and have just decided, no, it's fine. We'll do click and collect because, there's definitely going to be people going into the shop for that.
Yeah.
I think the issue is it's going to be intending to be a shorter period of time. So therefore, bringing everything to a halt. At least they're trying not to bring. Well, I guess it takes a lot to shut everything down and then to sort of bring it back up straight away within 4 weeks. It's when we saw. The first time round, there was a lot of businesses that shut down, at least to get to the point where they had all of the PPE or all of the other necessary things to make them COVID safe, quote unquote, one of those other things that's banded around. So I guess now at least things are more prepared. And so for things like click and collect, when you're not going to be walking around an entire store and need it to be disinfected or whatever it is, I guess it's a little more safe, obviously. Minimal movement would be more good, but
yeah, I mean they've been having to wear these giant visors for the last 2 months instead of masks. Oddly,
Dave, get the bleep button ready, because to be honest, I think this whole fucking lockdown thing is bollocks. The can't even use Excel. How do they know that locking down a few things is going to stop the spread of corona?
So you got to beep the word Excel there. Matt, you talked about
other spreadsheets are available.
Pages. You. Sorry, second yellow card. I'm getting confused now. That's my
Just
fault.
call one front door and one back door.
You'll still get confused.
Well, no, we know about your back door, so you're probably right. Right. Second yellow card. You mentioned about a really good tip, to be fair, about the fact of avoiding social media and taking a lot of extract of a book. What do you recommend? If you had to sit down and read a book now, what do you recommend? What have you been reading apart from I don't know, Matt's book? Matt Jensen. What was his name?
Jansen.
Brian
Jansen. Damn it.
Well, apart from that, which I've had on repeat, lately, honestly, I've just gone back and revisited the Harry Potter series because I never read it. I read like some of them as a kid, but I thought enough adults read this, and it was all on Prime anyway. So I thought, screw it, I'll just have a crack at that. And they're long, but it's easy reading. If you've got a reading age of a certain point, and
was that dick?
I'm not saying it wasn't, but like,
wasn't saying it wasn't.
I used to like it.
It's bad when Dupe said he's got a Kendall.
A Kendall or a Kindle? What did you say?
It's got one of them Amazon Ken dolls.
going to tell you a little weird story about it because I like tangents, and this is what this is all about, just having a laugh and a crack. I remember I must have been 15, 16 when one of the Harry Potter books came out. I can't remember which one it was. And we literally, the day that it came out, we had a big a camp out at a friend's house. And he had a massive big garden, and my best mate, we wanted to hook up with this girl.
Here we go.
And she basically turned up with the Harry Potter book. She just got it. She was big into reading, clearly. And so we're all sat around the campfire drinking at 15, 16, drink responsibly.
Polish vodka.
And Polish vodka. And she just sat in the tent and just read the whole of the Harry Potter book by torchlight. I think that was the last time she got invited.
On her own, like this bloke wasn't involved, or what? Like,
no, well, I mean,
involved.
That's weird foreplay, Dave.
I'll read it to you.
Abracadabra.
Yeah, literally. She just,
only ones.
She just literally sat there the whole of the time and just read this book. I mean, it's completely irrelevant to lockdown, but it's just a story I wanted to share.
She got to the toilet. She said, "Get your wand out," but she was only on her own. Yeah.
Dave's had a hot chocolate. He's had whipped cream with that hot chocolate.
Did she give him
Harry
Quidditch?
Potter? But Harry Potter, yeah, good shout. I've never read them. To be fair,
I'd recommend it. I mean, what I did was I found that there's this website you can go on called e-reader IQ. I mean, you can draw your own.
Okay.
If you fancy
eats the crayons.
Yeah. I watch the films.
Yeah, it's fine. It's basically the same. You get the gist. But what I do, because books are quite expensive. I mean, to be fair, for what you're actually getting, they're not bad. But what I do, there's a website called eReader IQ, and you can put Amazon Kindle books on there on a wish list, and it's basically just a price watcher. So I just go through the bestsellers and whatnot. I put hundreds of them on this wish list, and then every time one of them drops to 99p, because sometimes I find that they do this because it boosts the sales for a set period of time, and it pushes them right up the Amazon charts, and they could put the price back up again and get a new boost in sales. That's what I assume is happening. But because of this website, I just grab them with the 99p, so I've got about 150 unread Kindle books to go through. So it's going to last me for ages. We could be locked down for the next 10 years. I'll have plenty of reading material.
I hope not.
Right, let's start the lockdown tips. Yeah. Lockdown hacks in the description.
That's the one.
Okay, I'm going to come at you with another story now, really quickly. It's about a Kindle, so it's kind of relevant. My mother-in-law, we were in Greece. My mother-in-law had a Kindle. It ran out of battery, and she did a book swap. And she used it as a bookmark in a book, in an actual book.
It's an expensive bookmark.
There's a hack.
So what was that website called again, Matt?
e-reader IQ.
E-reader IQ. I might put
Dave
that.
will
It's just
definitely
a little browser
in the
plugin.
description of the
I'm going to
video.
type it up now. Yeah, e-reader IQ, and that is one for the description. That is lockdown tip number 1 if you're a keen reader.
There's also another really good place to go, Dave. It's www.twitch.tv/SecondYellowCard.
I thought you'd definitely say.
I wouldn't recommend.
Yeah, I was waiting for the.
I'm not going to plug myself.
I hope not.
It's No Nut November.
I hope not, yeah. My word. Okay. Let's bring it back now. How do you? We spoke about it. Obviously, you on about your Discord quizzes, your friends. Obviously, you're living with your girlfriend. Obviously, your family as well. How do you think this second lockdown is gonna impact that? Do you see much of them anyway, or?
It's one of those. I feel more sorry for my sister, because she lives in Lancashire, and all my family's down south in Essex, which is where I am. And so it's much easier for me. My parents haven't seen my sister since before the whole pandemic, since before last Christmas. So for her, I imagine it's been far, far worse, because it's a 4-hour drive, and my parents were barely going to be able to do that anyway. But obviously under the lockdown, they're both considered vulnerable people because they're in their 60s and 70s. So I imagine that for me, it's not quite as bad, but for other people who imagine much further away from their family, for example, my girlfriend's family all lives in Devon, so she's managed to see them once, during that brief window. She managed to get a train ticket down to Devon, go spend a couple of weeks down there and actually see them, which was nice for her, because I imagine it'd be quite isolating when you're so far away from people that you spend so much time with normally. I think I've been quite lucky in that respect, but I certainly understand that for some people it's been much, much worse, and I wouldn't want to be in that position.
Yeah, 100%. Joe, obviously, how's it been for you? Family, obviously, you've had a child as well during, not quite lockdown.
Well, technically, she's not a COVID kid, but born during kind of pandemic times, hospital was a weird place.
Yeah.
Like, and kind of you're not allowed in for any of the scans or anything like that. You pretty much just become a taxi driver up until kind of kick off, when it's kind of all happening in the labour ward, and you can kind of go in there and do the last little bit. But then, like, as soon as the baby's born, you get about 10 minutes, and then they're like, see you later, come back at visiting times. It's very strange compared to the first time, but they're doing it for a reason. And strangely, I preferred the hospital this time because there wasn't so many people around, and people just annoy you, didn't they? Especially when you're tired and stressed out, which is what happens a lot when you're kind of going through that. When there wasn't that many people there, it was kind of actually not that bad. I was just sitting in the waiting room, a similar thing, just had Audible kind of in my ears, listening to Matt Jensen's autobiography available on Amazon, narrated by the GOAT. I didn't listen to that shit.
He read it instead. He prefers his own voice.
But yeah, it's very strange. In a way, I quit my job. I'd kind of planned at Christmas time that I wanted to be quitting my job around March time. I'd kind of set myself a target. That's when I'd planned it to happen. Obviously, I didn't plan for a pandemic, but similar to kind of backdoor Matt. I was working a lot of hours, and I didn't make time for my immediate family, my kind of anyone like that, as much as I should do. And then when the pandemic hit, everyone was on house party, wasn't it? Everyone was, you'd be doing quizzes, you'd be doing I started talking to all my family like 10 times more than I'd spoken to them. It weren't like a personal thing. I didn't like, oh, you're a. It's just like I didn't have time to talk to them.
Obviously, haven't met my family.
I have.
You have?
Your little boy told me to fuck off.
Daddy, don't fuck me.
I will.
Out of context, child.
That's what Dave says to Joe, right?
But I started because obviously at the time I didn't have much to do because everyone was locked down, and we was all kind of talking. We was FaceTiming. We was doing what everybody done, and they're all like texting me going, "Oh, it's really nice to talk to you and like actually like spend some time with you, even though we're not with you." And it actually gave me a bit of kind of when you have time to reflect on it. I was like, actually, there are more important things to life than slogging your guts out at work. And I took my work home with me. It affected a lot of things, and actually making that decision kind of made me realise, okay, working that many hours, and I had a well-paid job, but it wasn't. When I've looked back at it, I go, actually, chasing the money over kind of ignoring your family a little bit, they're all right. So it's quite nice to have a chat with them, and I'd say our relationship is stronger because of lockdown, which is strange.
I think that's 100% fair enough. I think a lot of people are in that same sort of boat, like you say, the Skype, Discord, house party. I mean, a lot of people spoke to family probably more than what they normally did. I spoke to family that I still see, but not as often as I wanted to. We did a quiz sort of every weekend or whatever, or every
Thursday.
fortnight, yeah. But like, I'm sort of similar to you with the work thing. Obviously, I know you were sort of more senior at your job, but like obviously working with a family, and I did a thing that you told me before where like I was checking emails at like 9 p.m. at night and like replying to emails at that time, and you said like finish work at 5 or whatever, or 6, don't look at my emails until the next morning. And I think that's probably the way to do it, really, because like I'm looking at them at 8-9 o'clock, and then my head's ticking again and like thinking about it overnight and stuff. So I think like in life you just need to shut off. Work's work. House life, it should be a house life with your family and so on, really.
What's your best way of shutting off then, Dave? Oh, sorry, Matt.
Yeah. I'll let Matt talk first whilst I think.
Yeah. You're just going to evaluate which question's best.
Yeah,
all right, go on then.
Well, it wasn't necessarily a question, but I think it's one of the dangers of working from home, and it's something that especially those who haven't been used to working from home, like my mum's worked in an office for 30 odd years, so it's completely new to her. She doesn't like working from home. She likes the social aspects, but it's also I guess the technological impairment you have of being older. You're not used to you use a computer at work, and that's pretty much it. You don't really want to be hooked up to it all the time. But it's also knowing when to shut off, and when you've got constant access to something, whether it be a work computer that you don't normally have, like that automatic time shut off is no longer there, so you can continue to work through it. My wife works for an American company, and the American way is very much, let's throw as many hours at something as possible and just hope that it's good, because that is how they operate. It's everything must be bigger and longer and therefore will be better, rather than you can actually do things efficiently in less time.
Yeah.
But they don't see it that way, and so all of her colleagues are on slightly different contracts to her. She's salaried, they are not, so therefore they get paid for overtime. She doesn't, and yet she was getting chastised by her management team because she wasn't putting in as many hours as some of her American colleagues, when they get paid to do the hours extra when she doesn't, and then that puts her in a very difficult sort of position. She feels like that she's inferior to them, she's not valued as much by the company as them, even though she's probably doing a better job than they are, and she's doing the same amount of work in less time, therefore is actually costing them less. But I think a lot of people probably go through that same thing, especially if you're not used to working from home. It's finding out that, like you found out, Dave, with the shutting emails off from your phone, and Matt, like you said, about turning off Twitter and disengaging with anything like that you don't need to. And I think that's one of the things you learn the hard way. I think you feel like you have to always be on, regardless of who is contacting you, and you don't. That is one thing that you are the only person that dictates who people or who can contact you and when. Ultimately, if you are working for a set period of time, you kind of have to adhere to your terms of employment. I'm not suggesting just turn the work laptop off for 4 hours whilst you go and have a sleep, but ultimately only work the hours that you're paid to do. That's especially if you are salaried or you're being paid for a certain amount of time. Know your value is the most difficult thing, and I think I found that out from being self-employed, is that you need to appreciate that you are worth something regardless of what the company values yourself at, but your time is also worth something. So if you're spending 8 hours in a job, make sure that you are only doing those 8 hours, and if they are offering you more work, make sure you are paid for them, because the only person you are devaluing is yourself, because if you earn £10 an hour for the sake of that, you're earning 80 quid a day. All of a sudden, if you start doing 2 extra hours for no pay, you've then just cut your pay by a considerable margin.
Yeah.
Quick maths.
I don't have quick maths.
£8 an hour.
It was just, I should have picked an easier value to work with, but never mind.
I was going to say, you say that about kind of setting your own hours. One of the companies I used to work for, massive global kind of PLC, the CEO of the company, he actually turned around to us at kind of one of the meetings we had one year, and he said, if you ever get to the point where you think you've got too many emails, delete your entire inbox. Right? It sounded like a really strange thing to say. And he went, if it's that serious, they'll email you again. He said, because how many people get stuck where they go, I've got 200 emails to get, that I need to reply to. He said, just delete them all, and if it's important, they'll email you again. He said, and then just when you delete them, that pressure goes away straight away. Because, and it's exactly that. It's just, well, I didn't get it. And it was such a weird thing for someone in such a high powerful position just to say, just do it. And I'll tell you what, we kind of adopted it and said, like, if it does, because you would get to that, you'd get in on a Monday and you'd have like 400 emails, and you'd spend a day just going through emails. That's not productive. Going through emails isn't productive. You want to be, talking to your staff, talking to kind of, clients and whatever you need to do. And you'll just sit there, and then what normally happens, you'll deal with your staff, you deal with your clients, you do your emails when you get home. And just deleting them just makes you just go, I can sit down tonight and do what I need to do, take a bit of me time. So I'm not saying do it, but do it.
I was gonna say I still don't, like I said, I still don't fully shut off, I think, as much as I should. Like, probably after the podcast I will probably check the work email still. Like Duke was saying, how with it being, I'm not self-employed, but because it's been like a family business, I think it's almost in my head that I've got to be sort of on it, sort of 24/7. But like I said, I don't think I need to. Like, if someone's emailing at 9 p.m, I don't think they're expecting you to email them back at 9:05. They're expecting an email tomorrow morning. So just leave it till then.
But you also set yourself a standard, and that because it's your family business, you want to be better than like a PLC company or like, you know, a B&Q or something like that. You know, you want to be, if someone emails you at 9 o'clock, you get a reply, or, you know, you put a lot of stuff through eBay. So it's a 24-hour shop. So effectively you are open 24 hours if you're selling at any time of the day. So I can understand, as you know, obviously I've been helping my dad out as well. It's a similar thing. It's like you're open 24 hours. So you want to do it because it's a family thing. And if you set yourself that standard that we are better, then sometimes you have to do it. But it's understanding when you feel it's not expected of you, but you do it because you want to.
Yeah.
And that's a different kind of pressure.
Yeah, 100%. Moving on, Matt, bit of a taboo subject, but obviously men don't really have that habit of reaching out and asking for help. Could you or would you reach out, do you think, if you recognise that in yourself you were struggling?
I think I have in the past. I mean, I've had weird experiences with doctors in the past where I've sort of tried to reach out and sort of been rebuffed by them. And that obviously doesn't give you the best confidence in going forward for things, to see doctors about things like your mental health and stuff. Like when I was ill about 3 or 4 years ago, it caused huge amounts of problems with my mental health because I didn't know what the hell was wrong with me. And doctors seem to be very blasé about figuring that out. And obviously at the time you're like, well, this is my life. I feel very unwell. I can barely stand up straight. And you're telling me that I just need to calm down. It's like... maybe that's not the best thing to say to someone who's incredibly anxious. Now, I realise, obviously, as a doctor, it's a very difficult position. But I reached out at a later date when I was suffering quite heavily with depression and anxiety and whatnot. I've reached out to... I found that sometimes just talking to literally anybody is better than keeping it to yourself. Even if it's just having a chat with a friend about something completely different, it just seems to ease you a little bit, knowing that actually... I think sometimes you can get into like what feels like a hole. And... it doesn't feel like there's any way out of it sometimes, and then you'll talk to someone for a little bit and suddenly the hole feels a little bit less deep and you feel like your head's poking up across the top and maybe you can climb out of it. And there's various different coping methods. I mean, I've tried everything from meditation to like stoic philosophy to try and make myself feel better, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It's just one of those random things. But yeah, I would never suggest anyone not reach out, because I feel like even if someone hasn't suffered the same way you have, they've certainly been through things that they can empathise in some way, and you have a shared kind of... it's hard to put into words. Like people, there's like an understanding between people that everybody's been through things, some worse, some not, but it doesn't make, I think sometimes that people feel like their problems perhaps aren't as bad because other people are suffering worse. And I think sometimes people need to get out of that, because everything's relative to you at the end of the day. You can only empathise so much, and I just think it's important that people reach out to other people. I realise I'm rambling a little bit here, but I can't stress enough how important it is for people, if they are feeling low or whatever, to just talk to someone, anybody.
Well, it's strange because I wrote that question kind of in the outline earlier, and you mentioned it like right at the beginning of the pod, and you haven't seen that outline. So it's like you were already kind of speaking about how important it was before we even brought it up. So I very much agree. Like we're saying, it's good to talk. I mean, we talk to each other kind of daily, and it is like it's just speaking to your mates, and we kind of all know if someone's having a bad day, we say we've had a shit day, and we just
can tell almost as well a lot of the time.
Yeah,
we could tell, but I think all of us, I think we'd be open enough to say as well. It's been
there's less stigma nowadays. More emphasis being placed on just talking. It's simple as talking sometimes. Not everybody's problems can be solved with talking, for sure, but it's a start. Like I did things like cognitive behavioural therapy and things like that, and that actually I could recommend to people if they are really struggling to just get there. I find that sometimes I get into like a spiral and I can't get my thoughts straight, and that really did help me, just putting things down on paper sometimes, just to sort out the things that were going on in my head, to try to organise my brain a little bit. And you realise that actually maybe it wasn't quite as bad as it was making it out to be.
I've done something similar, mate, to be honest. In the previous job I'd done, I'd find myself waking up in the middle of the night and thinking about a customer or a car or something like that, and I started having a notepad next to my bed, and I would just write down what was in my head, because as soon as I thought about it, I couldn't get back to sleep. I couldn't stop thinking about it. Write it down, all of a sudden, click, you can get back to sleep. The paper's there in the morning, you don't forget. It's kind of just a little coping mechanism of, like you say, just being able to write down can sometimes help you clear your mind and kind of just restart and go again.
Yeah, I don't feel like enough value is sometimes placed on people talk about it as self-care, and sometimes I think that can sound a bit I think some people get the opinion that perhaps that's just like bone idle or laziness sometimes, and I feel like it's the exact opposite. I feel like if you take proper time to actually relax, to genuinely shut off, I feel like that can make you more productive when you are working on things, because if you're distracted by the stresses of whatever when you're trying to do your work, you're not going to be as productive as you would have been if you'd actually taken the time to sort of to sleep, to get proper hours of sleep, to stay hydrated. Sometimes it is as simple as staying hydrated and sleeping properly and just avoiding things that you know make you feel anxious, and sometimes that can just make you more productive as well.
Yeah, I think other people will obviously, it'll depend on the person as to how they cope with that, or how they process that, or how they allow those things to manifest within themselves. I found a lot of with me, it was procrastination. I'd find anything but the thing I needed to do instead. Yeah. So whether that be clean the house, hoover, clean my room. I was even worse for it at uni. I'd get anxious when I got towards a deadline, and rather than actually doing the essay, I'd sit there and move my room around or something like that. And I would just get to a point where I wasn't doing anyone any favours. I was making the situation worse by just eating away the time by doing something completely nonsensical. But I think ultimately everyone will deal with the same problem many different ways.
Did you ever, I imagine this is probably similar, did you ever find yourself focusing on one particularly menial task that you had to do? So say you were working on a larger project, you'd find one thing that felt like you were doing work, but you actually weren't. You were just overly focusing on like a spreadsheet that was very easy to fill in. Yeah, that's the one that got me the most.
That's his save reveal videos.
like we use Trello to organise the pods and the scripts and everything like that we put together, just so we know what we're doing. We used a similar product at work for managing user stories, and I'd be the most anal fucker ever when it comes to like the arrangement of it has to be this way, it has to be set up this way. Yeah. But it's to the point where it was like I'm wasting time on this because I don't want to do the real thing, so I'm just going to do the stuff I've already got and make it look pretty.
Exactly. I remember once I was building a spreadsheet that was just ranking like search terms to do with like Google stuff I was working on. This was a while ago, back when I was doing internet marketing, and it was like, I feel like I'm being productive and doing work here by building this spreadsheet, but what I'm actually doing is sat here listening to a podcast for 2 hours and pretending to work, but I've justified that in my own head. And then you might think at the time you're doing work, but then when you're finished with it, you realise you've been procrastinating, and then you get the guilt associated with that and the fact you've just wasted 2 hours. And it's just it's a cycle. It's a cycle that you sometimes have to just step out of, and it's very, very difficult.
Well, we're gonna have some quick fire questions now to finish off. We spoke quickly about books, Matt. Obviously, you're on the Harry Potter series, or you've finished that. Is there any others that you've read that you'd recommend, or ones that you're looking forward to maybe reading?
There was a book I read. It wasn't actually during the pandemic, but it was a book that one of those books. There was a couple actually. There was a book called Dark Matter by a guy called Blake Crouch. It's a fiction book, sort of science fiction kind of thing. And there's another one called Bad Blood by John Carreyrou, which is a fiction book about this company in Silicon Valley called Theranos, which was founded by basically it was a giant scam essentially, but it tells the story of essentially how they became like a massive company despite having absolutely nothing underneath it. So stuff like that kind of fascinates me, so I'd recommend those two.
Brilliant. Any other books, lads? I mean, we'll speak a bit more, I'm sure, about it over the next month or so. But Matt,
we've got 30 days of this. I'm not giving mine away yet.
I'm sure you can think of 30 books. No?
Oh, I definitely could.
Yeah. Give me one. Give me one off your shelf there. I won't give you one of mine because I don't think I've read a single book yet.
I can see a dictionary
1998 encyclopedia out there.
We start with a bit of for Football Manager, because FM21 is coming out in it. So the European game.
Oh
no, European game. Yeah, very very good book that is.
I've been wanting to read that.
What's it about, Joe? The European game.
Yeah.
What's it about, Joe?
Add that to your
exactly
list.
that. It's football. It's like basically it's the secrets of European football success. So it just talks about all different clubs and how they've managed to succeed in Europe. It's a good. like I've got shitloads of books. Like you, Dave, with your bookcase behind you, mate. You're an avid reader.
Avid hoarder.
I like to read books to kind of inspire my football manager fucking aboutery. So just pick up a new book and read a few pages, see if it kind of gets me. Yeah. I don't read fiction or anything like that. I mean, tonight I was reading Fantastic Mr. Fox, brilliant book, reminded me of my childhood. Ted got to chapter 3 and fell asleep. So either my reading or just he was tired. But
watch out, Matt, voiceover work.
Oh mate, I bossed it. You never knew a Fox had an Essex accent.
I can only imagine. Please ad-lib the sections for
I think we needed an extra. When we've got no guests, maybe you could read a couple of pages of it to us.
Yeah, I'll do a chapter. Yeah.
Okay.
Brilliant. It's got pictures, dope, as well.
Sweet. So as you probably know, I'm not very good at reading. I struggle. I'm quite open about it because I make jokes so other fuckers can't. So what I like to do is I like to read blogs.
Dupe thinks reading is a club in the championship, by the way.
Yeah. Save reveals are on the other pod. So I like to read blogs, and I read my blogs at westreamfm.com. There you go. That's my plug.
Matt,
go on.
You
can cut it
out. The Nowhere Men. It's a book about scouting in football. It's very good, actually. Michael Calvin. He's done quite a few sort of football related books, but it's written sort of from sort of the scouts' perspective, obviously, about them sort of trawling up and down various divisions when it's pissing it down, worse than Stoke on a Tuesday night sort of level.
I've got a feeling. Do you remember when they were going to do the FM book club? I'm pretty sure that was the first book.
But it's very...
I think it was actually. I think I've actually read... That might be one of the books that I've read the first page of.
He's looked at the front cover.
What I will say is, if anyone does recommend a book to get you through, feel free to drop it down in the comments.
Yeah.
And then maybe we'll take it in turns and we'll actually read one.
Yeah.
That'd be a good idea.
The book I'm going to recommend it on every podcast, is Warnock, the autobiography. That's going to be a meme.
In the hope that someone else reads it.
Yeah.
Fun fact, I read that book when my wife was not in labour, but in hospital with our first kid.
Yeah.
I literally was sitting next to her while they induced her and smashed through Warnock, giving me brilliant football manager tips.
I read a good chunk of that on the way back from one of the football manager events a few years ago. So just one of the bits always
the Anton Ferdinand.
I was literally about to bring that one up. Yeah,
it is perfect Warnock. He just says Anton Ferdinand kind of gets on the ball, dribbles it out of defence, goes to pass it to a midfielder, fucks it up. Warnock just gives him a load of shit, and then on the next ball, Ferdinand just literally rose-heads it, and he goes, "There you go, son. Not lost it now, have you?"
Then the teacher really smiled. Yeah, yeah, brilliant. Yeah, Warnock book. That's a recommendation. Matt, TV shows, movies. Are you a big Netflix watcher or?
I don't actually have a Netflix account anymore, but
I've never had one either.
You can always come around mine and Netflix and shit. Oh, well, you're not allowed. Shit, sorry.
God.
That was an sensitive
after pandemic. I've at the moment. Em and I we watched things like The Last Dance, the sort of stuff that obviously that was on Netflix. What are we watching? We watched this show called *Halt and Catch Fire*, which is again not football related. It's about like it's hard to explain, like the dawn of the sort of computing age, but like it's set in the 80s, basically about this firm in Texas who essentially are trying to compete with IBM. And it just sort of tells the story of so many different computer innovations, but through a sort of fictitious company or various iterations of that company. It's a fascinating show.
Very good. I can put up a recommendation behind that one as well. I think there's 4 seasons of it as well.
I think they're all on Amazon Prime.
Yes.
Big up the
so yeah.
I mean, I'm going to put it out there. It was actually quite early on the lockdown that I jumped on it. Brooklyn Nine-Nine. You remember my little phase I went through Brooklyn Nine-Nine, boys?
Can't forget
Can't
it.
remember, mate.
Yeah.
What happened?
Nine-Nine! Literally every day I was watching about 6 episodes.
So much of it.
Yeah.
I will say one other thing. Joe will vouch for me on this. Another absolute class little TV show, if you want it, is Gavin and Stacey.
Yeah.
And Joe would know that I watched an episode because at the end I'd just go, "Tell me tomorrow," and start singing the song.
I think
We'll literally be sitting in Discord and he'll just go, "Tell me tomorrow." And I'm like, "Oh, for fuck's sake."
That's another one down, dude. Yep.
Yeah.
That's a good show actually for like a binge because there's so few episodes of it. You could watch that in, like a weekend.
It's an easy one to watch as well because it's so good, it's so shit, right?
In-Betweeners is like that though, because I think everyone could watch that, still laugh at that, and
That's really old now, you know that.
It's a weird day, is it?
That's like 10 years old, isn't
I
it?
say it's 10 years old next
Still
year.
funny.
God.
Mad,
Still
mate.
funny.
Dave, so did you watch it when it first came out when you were 8? Or
It was weird though. Like it would come out. I think one of the last episodes was out when I was still at secondary school, so it was a bit weird, like watching that.
Shit.
Wow.
Yeah, the
Which
fourth
one was you,
mo-
Dave?
Which one of that? I was probably at Will.
Neil.
To be fair, me. I was probably at Will.
Probably Will.
Will Keno. Man.
Briefcase Monk.
Yeah.
Thanks for that, Phil.
Yeah. Any podcasts, Matt? Are you a big podcast listener, or is it more?
I am, yeah. It's all like when I'm like making videos and not recording, I just have a Bluetooth speaker on my desk that I just plug podcasts into the whole time. So
which episode of the 5-Star Pod is your favourite, Matt?
every single
The
one.
one he
I
was
couldn't
on.
possibly. It's like asking someone to choose their favourite kid.
My
first
eldest.
one.
So he never hears this. God, there's so bloody many. I listen to like football podcasts. I listen to Football Ramble, mostly to get football stuff. I mean, there's obviously Fulham-centric stuff, but that's a really very niche market. So if you are a Fulham fan, then there's Fulhamish. And I know you were on it the other week, Dave.
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah.
That was awesome. What else is there?
Herpes, isn't it?
Yeah.
You can't get even. What else is there?
I'm a big fan of the football finance. That's a good one. The
Football
price of
finance?
football. Yeah.
Oh, I haven't heard
Price
of
of
that.
football.
Price of football.
Price of Football. Yes.
Yeah, it's really good.
I like
really good.
Peter Crouch's podcast is pretty solid as well.
Yeah,
Actually, it was a lot better than I
tremendous.
thought it was going to be. For a BBC podcast, I thought it was going to be kind of.
Is he stopped?
Yeah,
there?
it stopped.
Is it stopped?
Yeah.
It stopped. Well, I
I'm
don't
so
think they
far
did another
behind.
one, are they?
Oh wow.
Tom FM ruined that for me.
Yeah, Tom killed it. Oh, another good one. If you like your sport, is a podcast on. It's again BBC. It's called Fight and Talk, presented by Colin Murray. It's 1 hour every week. Very good show.
Dupe, 30 days, mate. 30 days.
I was going to say, you're going to exhaust these.
We need
very
one of these
quickly.
every day.
I'd have one for every day. I listen to way too many podcasts. I've got like a backlog of like 120 hours just sat there on my phone, and and I'm deleting them just to prevent myself from like. I listen to Joe Rogan or like. There's another. I mean, this is a really niche one, but like, if you're interested in like geography and exploration sort of stuff, then there's a podcast called 80 Days where it's only like a monthly thing, and it's these 3 Irish guys who just do like these 2-3 hour long profiles of certain like micronations, like the Solomon Islands or something, and it's just like you can have one in the background, but it's like informative, but it's also funny too because they've got that kind of light-hearted nature to it. That's a really solid podcast.
I reckon that'd be good for like FM.
Didn't Foxy just nick that? I was going to say, didn't Foxy just nick that for a YouTube video?
That would be that would be
thing
good
is-
though for FM inspiration. That would, you know.
It'd be really good. It would just make me want to go to those places when we're not allowed to go to those
Yep.
places.
I want to go to the Faroe Islands or
I bet
something.
you listen to that, Matt, and think that's the next building a nation. That is right there. Like,
Yeah, building the Solomon Islands.
Talking about doing that, Matt, I'm really sorry. We're keeping you here too long. But my wife's been doing a lot of the Christmas shopping, and I'm sorry to butt in. This is quick fire around her. She's bought her mum and dad. Her mum and dad like to go away a lot, and she's bought her mum and dad 52 Great British Weekends away. It's a book.
Oh,
no,
my
it's just a
word.
book.
Airbnb
Yeah, you know,
vouchers.
I did a lot of overtime during the lockdown. Yeah, thanks for hitting that Twitch Prime. 52 weekend away, so it's like it just outlines. We're in fucking lockdown. What the fuck are they going to do with that? Like, seriously.
Pretend.
Enjoy the pictures.
Yeah, just put up the wallpaper and just kind of sit. And it's going, sorry, Dave, carry on. You're literally giving me evils there.
No,
You
it's
get.
not. It's all right.
Are you sure?
Yeah. Any particular? Oh, to finish off, Streamer Showdown, Matt. Any particular season to watch? I think I know the answer to this one already.
Oh god, I just can't imagine which one. The first one was quite good. No, I mean I don't know. It depends on what you're looking for, I suppose. If you want to see me win, then I guess the most recent one.
Yeah.
If you want to see anything
Spoilers,
except
I've
that.
not got that far yet.
Oh god damn it. There's always one who spoils it.
I was there. How did it feel to win that though, Matt? I backed you pretty early to win. I did. I probably.
Fuck off, Dave. You backed
I think I
everybody.
changed my mind about 6 times. Yeah.
He's retconning it now. It was great. Like I don't know what more I can really say about it. It was just it's such a fun thing to do. It's I think that's actually something that's helped me a lot is just doing things like the showdown has enabled me to, because I'm quite an introverted person. Like, I tend to be very, I guess timid isn't really the right word. Like, I tend not to talk to people unless they talk to me, and that could be really bad when it comes to things like networking with other creators and stuff. And I think doing things like the showdown and getting a chance to talk to more people and doing things like this is good, because it's enabled me to sort of come out my shell a little bit and just get to know people a little bit more than perhaps I did, because I already knew some people from the community quite well, but it was nice to talk to new people. And I think that helps probably with a lot of people, bringing newer creators in to not the community, because obviously the community is much bigger than just the showdown, but to get to know different creators and different personalities that perhaps might even don't make content. And it's been really, really good.
Yeah, it's been massive. I think for the community, it's brought everyone closer together, hasn't it? I think, you know, with some of the people involved, even people outside the community, having Manny, Spencer, Visa, like, you know, it's been amazing. I think for that sort of thing, and everyone's getting involved, like even in the background, like yourself, Joe, and people like Millie, and obviously Matt. The work you were doing in it was ridiculous.
Aye.
Yeah, Jay. Yeah. But I really enjoyed it. I'm sure we'll talk about that more. It's crazy that we've spoken for over an hour, and that's sort of the first little bit of FM talk that we've spoke about. So it's gonna be interesting for the rest of the month and the podcast. But that does bring episode 1 to a close. Our plan is to release one of these every day during lockdown. So get your questions in the comment section. We'll do our best to reply to every single one every day. You can also email us at info@westreamfm.com if you want to reach out in private. We are in no way professionals when it comes to mental health, so please use the links in the description below, and we will see you all tomorrow. Thanks a lot, Matt, and say goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye,
Goodbye.
folks.
Bye.
Goodbye. Quick question though. What links episode number 1 of 5 Star Pod, and what links episode number 1 of this podcast? Answer revealed tomorrow.